Dreaming of cracking the UPSC Civil Services examination? Unsure about where to start or how to navigate the challenging path to success? Vision IAS Delhi's GS Foundation Course 2026 is here to provide the right direction, support, and resources to transform your dream into reality. This holistic course is designed to prepare you for every aspect of the UPSC CSE, Prelims, Mains, and interview. Here's what makes this course a game changer. Complete syllabus coverage from GS Prelims to Mains, CSAT, Ethics, Essay, and Current Affairs. We leave no stone unturned. Top-notch faculty learn from Delhi's most experienced mentors who have guided countless toppers. Personalized mentorship, tailored feedback, and performance assessments to help you constantly improve. Exclusive current affairs preparation. Master the dynamic part of the syllabus with PT 365 and Mains 365 sessions. This course isn't just about preparation, it's about building the confidence and strategy you need to excel. Batches starting for 2026, 2027 and 2028. Karol Bagh, 17th December, 9 a.m. 29th November, 5 p.m. GTB Nagar, 13th December, 6 p.m. 23rd December, 8 a.m. Your journey to UPSC success starts with Vision IAS.
Is the case for legal MSP clear? If you get a question, what is your opinion? Should it be given or not? Not for the longer run. What will you do in the longer run? Longer run, Keynes has a legendary quote: everyone's dead in the longer run. What will you do then? So if the farmers are demanding MSP today, you are saying कि चलो 4-5 साल बाद देखेंगे. Abhi you have a problem. If you are the prime minister, what will you do? इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का रोड बना रहे हैं. सही लग रहा है. ओके. इंडस्ट्रियल क्रॉप पे फोकस ज़्यादा करें. फिर राइस वीट कम हो गया तो फिर वो पहली मिडिल क्लास शोर मचाती है, टमाटर महंगा हो गया. अब उनको रबर थोड़ी खिला दोगे कि प्रोडक्शन रबर की हो रही है. How can you do that? So this is what I was saying. Climate change is now presenting a particular challenge to your food security. Something which you said is not a problem because we are now a sufficient amount of rice and wheat. You have seen the variability in rice and wheat itself in the last 2 years, and that has happened because of climate change, whether it was heat wave or unseasonal rain. And these are only going to increase, they're not going to reduce. So how are you going to then deal with it? Then you will have to start importing, and I'll tell you how India, after so many decades, has now started becoming an importer of maize. मेज का हम प्रोड्यूसर थे, हम इम्पोर्टर बन गए बिकॉज इथेनॉल में बहुत ज़्यादा वी हैव नाउ शिफ्टेड. So what could be the answer? So answer in UPSC should never be yes or no. It should always be that this is the particular reason why MSP should be given. There are the challenges, and the solution is a more sustainable solution would be direct income support. Because government does not have the capacity to spend this much amount, and considering we are still a developing country, we have number of other priorities apart from agriculture. And if you want to talk about in the interview also, if you get such a type of a question, you can always talk about the challenges in this. You never take a stance yes or no. You're not a political party जिसको एक conclusive answer देना है. You can always take a diplomatic stand being an administrator. They never give a conclusive answer yes or no, because the picture is not as clear. अगर इतना yes no clear होता तो government भी अब तक कर चुकी होती. It's not very difficult to do it. So whenever there is a particular, what do you agree? Do you have a point of view? What is your opinion? You always say my opinion is this is the reason why the demand is there. This is what the challenges are, and we can follow a balanced approach, or we can move towards this. Never say yes or no in any of these type of questions when it is saying what is your point of view. Even in we can create. Right now also PM Kisan कैसे हो रहा है? We are giving 6,000 rupees. State governments are also giving more money apart from these 6,000 rupees. So we are already doing that. Somewhere we have to create the challenges. कोई 100% तो कुछ भी नहीं हो पाएगा. We'll have to create those particular capacities, whether financial or administrative. What type of capacity you want to create, or now giving legal MSP definitely has a huge implication. So वो तो आज एक दिन में नहीं हो पाएगा. Slowly we can move towards things which are more sustainable in the long run. Because if the government starts procuring everything in the long run, it's not also sustainable. Sustainable solution would be land record तो बन ही सकता है ना. Digital India Land Record Modernization Program is working at a good enough speed. So that can give you this direct income support. Already the government is doing so. You can say वहाँ पे issues हैं. Urban agriculture how? हाँ डेफिनेटली टेक्नोलॉजी, बट उसमें फिर प्रॉब्लम तो वहीं आएगी ना कि प्राइस एफिशिएंट तो हो जाएगा आपका प्रोडक्शन, आप अपनी सब्सिडी कम कर सकते हो, बट हाउ विल यू देन गिव अ प्राइस टू देम? Price failure can always happen in this market. You can produce an organic produce, you can invest better, you can have less chemical free production, but whether that chemical free production is going to fetch you a market price or not, that is a question mark. Export कर सकते हैं, you have the capacity, then you can export. Your outside market is going to give you good price. बासमती थोड़ी MSP पे जाता है, बासमती तो बाहर ही जा रहा है ना. So what there you can export. So if you have a good enough market, you can definitely sell. Farmer is saying, what if the markets fail? Exactly, and this we have global evidences also that it is not exactly everywhere. This is why direct income support in those countries are significantly high. So even if I don't have it from my crop, I have direct income support coming from the government. And direct income support is not linked to production. आप कितनी भी प्रोडक्शन करो, हम फ्लैट 6,000 दे रहे हैं सबको. हम लैंड रिकॉर्ड के ऊपर स्मॉल मार्जिनल फार्मर को आई कैन गिव 15,000, टू बिग फार्मर्स आई कैन गिव 5,000. irrespective of production. So WTO also does not have a problem with this, because if direct income support is given which is not linked to production, that is also allowed under green box. तो वो एक सस्टेनेबल सोल्यूशन हो सकता है, बट फार्मर्स बिकॉज थिंक के वो भी इस डायरेक्ट इनकम सपोर्ट के भी तो पैसे चाहिए. Right now only 6,000, 2,000 rupees, which is very less. If you have to increase this, you will have resources. Any particular reform you have to do, you will have to find both the administrative capacity and financial capacity. उससे पहले आपका political will decide करेगा कि हम इनको solve करना चाहते हैं कि नहीं चाहते हैं. If the particular government does not have any particular will, they don't want to tackle this issue, this can keep on going for 10 years more. It is on the priority of the government what the government wants to solve. If the government wants to solve, all of these have particular solutions. It depends. For example, pollution is an issue. What is the solution? 2 दिन बारिश आई, ठीक हो गया, अब कल रात को फिर pollution बढ़ गया, grab 4. Grab 4 is restricting, but is it controlling the pollution? Delhi government is saying that हम 2100 देंगे, या problem is police protection or so many issues. Center government is not even talking about it. So who is going to solve? People are facing significant problems because of pollution. It is not something 5 years down the line. ये तो आज ही हो रहा है. तो जब तक will ही नहीं होगा, narrative ही नहीं होगा, तो वो उसका solution कहाँ से आएगा? ये farmer protest ने उसको narrative में लाया हुआ है, ताकि newspaper हमारी ये बात करे. So that people understand the narrative gains pace, the government will be forced to deal with it. Otherwise, the government is not dealing with it. So there's a person, farm union leader, who is sitting on a protest, fast on to death. Our 21st day hai unka. So why he is doing? So that you address the problem which I am raising. Listen to me. This is what Sonam Wangchuk was doing. कि लद्दाख के issues हैं, वो दिल्ली आए कि हमारे बारे में बात करो. We want solutions. So they met people, solutions will come, solutions like this will be discussed. But if 2021 the committee has been formed and nobody is talking about the solution, that means you have forgotten about the farmers. This is why the progress, 1 साल से पंजाब हरियाणा border दोनों border पे हो रहा है, खनौरी border पे भी and this one also. Both of the borders you are having, Shambhu border, खनौरी border दोनों पे है. अब वो दिल्ली आना चाह रहे हैं क्योंकि हम 1 साल से वहाँ बैठे हैं, कोई सुन ही नहीं रहा है. All of this, see, economics or any particular system of a society, whether it is social system, economic system, does not operate in a vacuum. It's always the systems moving together. So if the government thinks we have a particular social inequality problem, so that this is where they talked about reservations or they brought something reform. Economic system, whether it is farmers or industrial problem or any particular issue in services, any particular trade related issue, the politics has to decide. Decision making वही है. तो तीनों system साथ में चल रहे हैं. None of the systems works in isolation. So you can't just blankly say that money is more. Money is more, what do you mean money is more? You have to give me a picture that 10 lakh crore rupees is the expenditure and total budget is 45 ka hai. Now I get a perspective what you are saying. But if you say expenditure is more, what is the perspective? Government का काम ही है कि they want to provide socio-economic welfare, DPSP. So until unless you provide me the perspective of the expenditure, I would not know. So it's very easy to say that legalizing the MSP will increase the burden. What do you mean by burden? Government role in a society is socio-economic welfare given in the constitution, especially in India. Now, you can't say it as a burden. Burden I'll understand when you tell me that out of the total expenditure, they are demanding 30% on only one thing. And this has to be repeated year on year. Now I get a perspective why burden. But if you just blankly write cost is going to be more, administration is a problem, you're never going to get marks. You have to put all of these things in a perspective. These perspectives or the context is which fetches you more marks while writing answers. Otherwise, also, if you have an opinion, your opinion should always be backed by some fact. Anyone can say India has poverty or farmers are just complaining. WhatsApp से पढ़ गया वैसे पढ़ के तो आप कुछ भी बोल सकते हो. If you are preparing for an exam and also if you get into the job, you should have a particular perspective. Administration will always talk about specifics. Some X amount of people died because of a particular incident. How many people? आपका काम है ना उसमें बताना 536 लोग affect हुए. Politician can say people can be affected, but the administrator has to tell them 536, find out the 536 and provide them help. So you have to be very specific of whatever context you are making. So this starts right from the exam itself. You can't just talk about in a general layman terms कि ये हो रहा है. You have to be more specific क्या हो रहा है. This was just an idea to give you that specific context. Like? मनरेगा से भी तो वही होगा ना, वो भी तो एक इनकम, वो तो फिर आप काम करा के उनसे पैसे दे रहे हो. एग्रीकल्चर में जो प्राइस फेलियर है उसका सोल्यूशन कैसे है? इफ एग्रीकल्चर आई हैव डन अ पर्टिकुलर क्रॉप एंड आई एम नॉट गेटिंग अ प्राइस फॉर द क्रॉप, यू आर आस्किंग के मनरेगा में काम कर लो वहां पैसे मिल जाएंगे. You get the point. You have to be specific कि how exactly are you going to protect from price failure? हमने स्टार्ट ही डिस्कस किया था कि एमएसपी क्यों है. This is what you have to address. I hope this discussion is clear. Now next is bioethanol. That is ethanol blending in petrol. Now what's the benefit of ethanol blending in petrol? Or what's the benefit of any biofuel? What are the different examples of biofuel? No, biofuel, different types. One definitely biofuel is ethanol. What are the other examples? UPSC used to ask these questions in 2014, 15, 16. Because that time there was another development in biodiesel. Biodiesel formed from one source. But अब वो commercially इतना viable नहीं है. Can anyone tell from what source it is produced, that biodiesel? हाँ, jatropha. Jatropha is a crop which allows the production of biodiesel. Then you have and there's one more. So you can prepare all of these for environment and ecology. These are important. हमारा discussion यहाँ पे है. What are briquettes? Biomass produced fuels. This is biofuel only. Waste or insubstance. This is the whole thing. Biomass generation. Electricity from biofuels. What? Categorization of biofuels into 4 depending on what sources. ये चारों product अलग है. Ethanol blending in petrol. Ethanol can be produced from what all sources? Ethanol has different types of feedstocks being used. There are 4 generations of ethanol. One is first generation that comes from food sources. What are the food sources that can be used? Sugarcane. From sugarcane you have maximum efficiency in production from sugarcane juice. Other sugarcane byproducts you have it from molasses. Bag से used भी हो सकता है, but mostly from juice and molasses. Then food sources, other from sugarcane, they are high in starch. What are those? Maximum efficiency of bioethanol production comes from what source? Maximum efficiency. Maize का efficiency कम है. Maximum comes from rice. Maximum rice, then maize, wheat. Food grain-based ethanol is more efficient as compared to sugarcane. Sugarcane also juice is more beneficial as compared to molasses. Then what are 2G sources? 2G sources. Which are high in recently India has started production from 2G also, but we are not very efficient in this. This is not a good alternative to what food sources are. Still developing on this technology. Commercially viable technology are very less in 2G. Isme there is a significant investment, and it's not just in India, world over. Then what is 3G? Algae based. 4th generation is crops which can sequester carbon more. You can give examples of many genetically modified crops which can be created for this purpose. These 2 technologies are not commercial as of now. Commercial सिर्फ first और second है. Maximum efficiency in first generation. Second generation is also not very profitable right now. India has also started producing. Last year IOCL established its first 2G generation bioethanol. These are the 4 generations for ethanol production. We'll talk about the first 2. Now what is the benefit of these? Or why the government has a bioethanol program? What type of emissions? NO2 का फिर भी थोड़ा efficiency कम है. NO2 से पहले carbon monoxide. There are 2 benefits of having ethanol. One, because mostly India is dependent on What is the import dependence from crude? How much is total production which we have, total consumption of crude what we have, how much are we importing? What is the percentage? Crude is both domestic भी है India के पास crude. This import burden which we have is 13 to 14% maximum is what we are domestically producing. And another benefit is ethanol is, but efficiency of emissions we'll talk in detail के इतना बड़ा मतलब this is not a very efficient point as compared to other sources for which the land can be used, for example generation of solar energy. These are the two maximum benefits, or other benefits you can also add, that if these two are getting benefits, feedstock को भी benefit मिलेगा because the farmer is going to get good enough prices for his this. So you have air quality becomes better because pollution, clean burning fuel hai ethanol. Domestic sugar industry can get a benefit. Why? Because the feedstock gets a higher price. You don't produce more sugar, you produce more molasses, you produce more sugarcane juice so that you can have better prices here. Income of the farmers will increase due to this, investment and job creation because of the integrated plants and other bioethanol production plants which we are going to have. Atmanirbhar Bharat, this is the major reason that will reduce the amount of import oil, that is crude oil that is coming in the country. We'll have more ethanol production. This is in the last 10 years what the government says they've saved. 1 lakh crore rupees has been saved in foreign exchange savings because the import has reduced. Reduction of CO2 emissions, 544 lakh metric tons, and crude oil substitution. These are the major benefits which the government talks about. Why ethanol blending? Now what is the target for ethanol blending? It is 20%, and in the last 21-22 year we have already achieved more than 10 to 15%, which has already been achieved. Now how have we created all of this jump? What is the reason behind why more ethanol production is happening in the country? It's mostly happening because of what the government conditions they have created. This is what is the policy support which is coming from the government. The whole program started in 2003. In 2003, the target for bioethanol, the blending was only 5%, only in few states. The maximum push that has come only after 2019. This year, when the National Biofuel Policy of 2018 was launched, what changes were made as part of this biofuel policy was that first, the biofuel that was being produced in the country was only be allowed to be produced from C-heavy molasses. This was the only source which was allowed for production of biofuels. No other crop or no other food source was allowed for production. Then what the government did after the 2018 policy, other things were, sugarcane related things were approved. For example, it could be now done from sugarcane juice. It could be done from B-heavy molasses. It could also be done from rotten food grains with the FCI, and also done from surplus food grain. This was the major shift that happened after 2018. 2020 onwards, surplus food grain would also being used for production of food grains. But for surplus food grain to shift for bioethanol production, you have to take permission from the National Biofuel Coordination Committee. Prime Minister is the chairperson of this National Biofuel Coordination Committee, which was formed when this policy was passed, 2018-9. National Biofuel 2009 created this, so you have to take permission for surplus. And what surplus food can be used? Right now, two things are being used. One is, and the other is maize. Maize ka start hua hai 2020 onwards. So bioethanol production in the country can happen for the sugarcane based industry, and it can also happen from food grain. 2G sources, if there's more technology, that has also happened. Another critical thing which the government has allowed under this is that the government also decides the price for the ethanol coming from these sources. Based on differential, based on the source from which the ethanol is coming, whether it is C-heavy molasses, B-heavy molasses, and also sugarcane juice, the government will decide what is the price being paid by the oil marketing company. So the price of this is determined by the government. Whereas the price of food grain produced sugarcane, or food grain produced biofuel and 2G sources, this can be decided by the oil marketing company. So these two prices are not regulated by the government. What is regulated by the government is the sugarcane based sources, so that the mills get a benefit for producing more and more ethanol. So how the government has incentivized more ethanol production? The government has first diversified the sources from which ethanol can be produced, allowing the commercial production coming from sugarcane based sources and also food grains. Food grains is not just the rotten food grains of FCI, even the surplus can be used. Secondly, the government has also determined the prices for this. The prices for the sugarcane based sources are being given so that there is more and more production of ethanol and not diverted to sugar, because sugar in mills are facing a problem of not being able to sell the excess amount of sugar. Another benefit which the government has given, in 2019, the government has launched this PM G1, the biofuel integrated plants. The government gives interest subvention. So the government is not just incentivizing from the feedstock that how can you produce, is determining the prices, diversified the produce. And secondly, the government is also giving interest subvention for setting up these plants. This interest subvention happens under the scheme that is PM G1 Yojana, where the government gives a subsidized loan for setting up the integrated facilities for biofuel production. So this is why biofuel production in the country has jumped multiple times from 2% in 2013-14 to now 9.53% the average hai. Next year we have also gone more than 12%. Right now the government has now stopped reaching it from 20%. It is in talks. 4 days back the Hindu reported that the government is reconsidering the 20% target because we are facing certain drawbacks. What the drawbacks are, we'll discuss. This is the various sources from which the bioethanol is being produced. 2020 onwards, when we have production coming from maize, you can see how the maize-based bioethanol has significantly increased. Food grain production, because of their efficiency, both damaged surplus rice is being increased. Surplus rice was zero here because we had a problem of rice. I told you how in MSP there was a problem. Export ban laga diya, no surplus rice. Damaged grains was still significant, but maximum coming from maize. C heavy, B heavy, and sugarcane juice. These are the 3 other problems. But the problem is if we have to increase the biofuel production from 10 to 20, 10% is what we have achieved. The challenge is what is going to come in the next 10% which we are going to have. Now, what could be the possible challenges in this? Right now, we have a 10% what we have achieved. We have to reach till 20%. Benefits we have already talked about. Benefits is savings in crude oil. You will have an emission which is going to be reduced, and more benefits for the farmer because he's going to get a good price for both rice, maize, and also sugarcane. So benefit for the farmer, benefit for the industry, less crude oil dependence, and also emission intensity is going to increase. But what exactly is going to be the challenge here? So if you have to move from 10 to 20%, this is why we are discussing this whole thing, because challenges are huge and the government also is considering. Now the first major challenge is that if we have to increase the food grain production from 10 to 20%, Niti Aayog in 2021 came out with a report which talked about this issue, how challenges is going to come up. The first major challenge is from where are you going to get the land for production of all this crop? If most of the food is going to be shifted from food security to now production of ethanol, this is going to create a problem for food security. Right now we have a significant amount of rotten broken food grains. We have production of maize, but if we are going to shift most of our production from food to ethanol, we are going to have a challenge of food security. But first challenge is we will have not enough land. Land should be used for agriculture, land should be used for production of ethanol, or land should be used for production of. This also becomes a major question, because if you need to understand what's the benefit. Now food versus ethanol is clear that you have to ensure food security first. But if you talk about solar energy and ethanol, what is the benefit of solar energy? That solar energy completely controls the emissions. So emission efficiency is better as compared to this. So even if you have to talk about the availability of land, you have to talk about not just food and ethanol, you can also have a third option, that is how much is the emission intensity that when it comes from solar energy. Another problem that happens here is even when it is food and ethanol, if you have to increase the ethanol sources, it is going to come from what all feedstock?
Strategic implementation with a structured approach is instrumental to achieve success in the UPSC mains examination. To attain this excellence, guidance from UPSC experts is your way to overcome your challenges. Excel in UPSC mains with the Daksha mentoring program starting from 10th December and transform your preparation with strategic revision, practice and enrichment. Join this personalized mentoring program and develop your strategy with personalized learning plan, enhanced preparedness of GS subjects including essay and ethics, development of advanced answer writing skills, periodic interaction with UPSC toppers, guided brainstorming sessions for improved critical thinking and analytical abilities. Enroll today and take charge of your future to excel in UPSC mains.
Ethanol is coming from food sources, that is sugarcane, and second it is going to come from rice, and third it is going to come from maize. Now what are the different challenges in all these three industries? Sugarcane, rice and maize. Now sugarcane, if we increase the amount of production, if we have to use it for ethanol, one, I can have less availability of sugar. ये तो direct food and ethanol का there is a conflict. Another problem is, if I increase the amount of sugarcane production in the country, it is going to have an adverse consequence on my the environmental or the ecological cost, because sugarcane is a water intensive crop. So the same problem that we have in electric vehicle industry. Electric vehicles will have less emissions, but how you produce that electricity is also a question mark. Same thing, ethanol is going to reduce your emissions, but if you are going to have significant amount of water intensive crop in a country which is already water scarce, this is going to create a significant problem of water shortage in the country, not just sugarcane, but also in the case of rice. Even rice is a water intensive crop. So there is a significant intake which you are going to have while production of this. Not just this, both sugarcane and rice, India is giving significant subsidies in fertilizer, it is giving subsidies on power. So as a nature of the crop, it is having an environmental cost, and the subsidy burden which you are going to create, this is also going to increase the level of emission. तो feedstock आपने कैसे produce किया है, that also has significant emission intensity. So if we see the net balance of what the benefit, we are only going to get 3 to 5% of emission intensity reduction from ethanol. So something which is said to be 30 to 50% is not as significant, because while in the production of this feedstock, I am using a crop which is water intensive, and I am incentivize this production by giving more subsidies, which is going to increase my emission intensity. So both the production process should also be calculated while calculating the emission intensity of the crop. So this is going to become a major challenge once you have sorted out the challenge for land. Now what is the challenge if we move from sugarcane and rice and shift to maize? Maize mein right now we are seeing a significant problem that first India did not have enough production of maize. We were self-sufficient in maize till the time we were not using it for ethanol. Now if maize is being diverted for ethanol, India has to depend on imports. We do not have significant production of ethanol. India in the last 10 to 15 years did not have import burden of maize. This has also started. Another problem is, if the maize crop is being used for production of ethanol, maize also has alternate uses. Alternate uses it has in industry. Maximum use it has in feed in poultry. Also used as a source for starch in different types of industry. ये इसके major uses हैं, but major use is this. Now what has happened? In the last 2 to 3 years, if maize has been used for production of ethanol, all of these three sources are facing a significant reduction in supply, so their prices have increased. Just like if we have rice and sugarcane being short, उनके prices बढ़ सकते हैं, इसका तो अभी ही बढ़ गया है. Sugarcane and rice, we did not see a problem this time because sugarcane and rice, India was already producing more. We had incentivized more sugarcane production. Now, if the government controls this, is this clear what the problem is in these three sources? Water intensity, and also maize is better efficient as compared to sugarcane and rice in terms of water usage. But maize has a problem that it has better alternative uses. Alternative uses ka supply problem ho jayega, the price will rise. The price will rise here also. If the farmer is going to get good enough prices because it is being used for ethanol, if the price of these crops increases, because of the higher demand for the ethanol industry, because we are now moving from 10 to 20%, that means the demand for ethanol is going to increase. If the demand for ethanol is going to increase, the price is going to increase. If the price is going to increase, the burden of this increased price is going to fall on whom? If there is a increase in price of the feedstock, this burden will be taken by whom? This burden is going to be taken up by the consumer. So at the end of the day, would the consumer have the capacity to buy most of these bioethanol embedded petrol, because the price of the feedstock might increase because of higher demand. इस higher demand की वजह से ही बाकी इंडस्ट्री में सप्लाई कम हुई थी, वहाँ पे उनका सप्लाई कम हुआ, उनका प्राइसेस बढ़े. Now see from the perspective of consumer. From the perspective of consumer, the price of the feedstock is going to be high. They have to pay higher price. Another problem is this particular ethanol blended petrol is being used in a particular vehicle. What if this vehicle is not fit for this the ethanol blended petrol? Ethanol blended petrol, the vehicle would not change till the time you have a blending of 5 to 7%. But if you go more than 10%, this vehicle is going to have a poor fuel efficiency, where the efficiency is going to fall 5 to 7% for four-wheel vehicle. Two-wheeler vehicle में थोड़ा efficiency कम है, but the efficiency drops there is also significant for the consumer. Now consumer is buying it at a higher price, but the vehicle is not responding, the fuel efficiency has gone down. Now if we are going to shift this fuel efficiency to modify this vehicle to become a flexi fuel vehicle, if this is going to be a modification which India has started doing. Brazil has most of its production of flexi fuel vehicles because Brazil has already achieved a target of 27% ethanol blending of petrol. If flexi fuel vehicles have to be done, on an average, the cost reported for four-wheeler is that it is going to increase 15 to 20,000. A problem if 15 to 20,000, I am taking a permanent change in my vehicle cost, even if the government says the target has been reduced. So if the target of blending does not remain consistent, I am having a cost without any use of this vehicle. So the benefit for the consumer is limited because of what exactly is the price of what the ethanol is coming, and secondly, what is the price of the vehicle. Even if the vehicle price does not increase, the fuel efficiency is going down because we are increasing the amount of blending that is happening of ethanol in petrol. From the production end, we have, based on feedstock, the sugarcane, rice and the maize problem. How are we going to balance both agriculture and also the other uses what we have of these products? If we are promoting this, the emission the intensity is going to increase. If the emission intensity is going to increase, the effective benefit which you are going to get from ethanol is going to reduce. So then apart from reducing the import of crude oil, the bioethanol blending in petrol is not going to give a significant benefit to the people. This is the major problem which is now, which the government has to address. ये flexi fuel vehicles अभी नहीं आए हैं. This is already happening. This is already happening. This is why the government is reconsidering its blending target of 20%. They are thinking about stopping at only 18%. So this is what the Hindu reported few days back, that there have been demand from a significant amount of segments that since the fuel efficiency is not high, we have to reduce it. Otherwise, we are going to face a problem in reducing the capacity of the vehicle. जितना oxidation यहाँ बढ़ेगा, उतनी vehicle की life भी कम होगी और fuel efficiency का problem भी है. This is what is with respect to the bioethanol. Now, how can we tackle this problem? If we have to go till 20%, how can this problem be tackled? In fact, in order for ethanol blended petrol, the government has also banned the import of ethanol. Import of ethanol is allowed if it is to be used for industrial purpose. But ethanol is not allowed for the blending purposes. After 2018-19, in order to promote the domestic sources of bioethanol, import of bioethanol for blending in petrol is not allowed. It's highly restricted. Ethanol is only allowed when used for industrial purpose. Industrial purposes, what are the industrial purpose? यहाँ भी problem हो रही है क्योंकि वो अगर blended में जा रहा है तो industrial purposes के लिए we do not have significant ethanol. What are the industrial purposes? Ethanol is the one which is used for manufacturing of alcohol. Potable alcohol, number of states have this problem कि alcohol के लिए ethanol कम हो जाएगा. Also there is medicinal uses, spirit में and other things, ethanol is being used. This will also reduce, this is already a problem, but इसका problem solve हो सकता है because we allowed import of ethanol. Now how can we solve this problem? I have a problem that net efficiency of emission is not that high, land might be sacrificed, water might be lost, and finally the consumer might not get a very big benefit from ethanol mixing. Then how can we solve the problem? What the solution the government or the Niti Aayog report has suggested? First, we can have a better land use policy and also on times rotate the crops amongst various segments of the country. This is going to allow for a better water use efficiency. Administrative steps can be taken that not the same area is producing the same crop again and again. We can rotate. Land use policy can be made better, where we can also have production or investment in wasteland. Not just that, improvement in technology, where we can have 2G based ethanol production, more investment, and research and development. Finally, the Niti Aayog report also says that efficiency can also improve if you have productivity improving techniques. Genetically modified crops, whether it is for rice, wheat, the third one, maize, you can have better productivity. Better productivity can also solve the problem that there will no be alternatives between food and ethanol. Another thing what government can invest in, this is also a research process, less productivity, but we can improve there also. Millet based ethanol. If the government has to achieve 10 to 20%, this is what they can follow. But right now, achieving 10 to 20% is a problem from the perspective of food security, is a problem from the perspective of emissions, is the problem from the productivity that all of these crops have alternative uses also. For example, right now the feed industry in poultry is facing a massive issue because of the price. And also if in the future the prices of these feedstocks keeps on increasing because of the demand of ethanol, this price has to be shifted to the consumer. If it shifts to the consumer and the efficiency of the vehicle does not increase, we do not have flexi fuel vehicles, it is going to be a problem for the consumer end. This 18% the government is right now considering to stick to because of this particular problem that the efficiency of the vehicle keeps on reducing. Land के हिसाब से भी problem है because in India significant amount of land also gets wasted. This is what is the projection of how much ethanol would be required. Total demand would come out to be 13.5 billion liters, जिसमें से fuel में ही 10 चाहिए होगा. Fuel may if you need 10, sugar can give 5.5, 4.6 comes from grains. Grains has more efficiency. For other industrial uses, it can come from grains and sugar industry, but here import is also allowed. यहाँ पे import allowed नहीं है. This is the demand which is going to come if we have to have 20% achieving the target by 25-26. This is what your efficiency is coming from different sources. Maximum efficiency comes from rice, you have maize, and then you have sugarcane based sources, sugarcane juice, and also the sugar plus other waste materials. जिसके लिए land requirement is going to be huge. So the whole problem becomes specific, how much amount of land you're going to require for production of ethanol, only for ethanol, not for food. If this is what is the 20% target that you have to achieve. And finally, the wastage of land that is happening in India. The area of operational land holdings is significantly reducing. How much amount of land gets wasted? If this is going to significantly reduce and you are going to ask more land for the production of that, this is going to be a mismatch. Then you're going to have a problem of food security. क्योंकि land holding कम हो रही हैं, बढ़ नहीं रही हैं. If land holdings are going to be reduced, land has better alternative use for food production and not for bioethanol production. And bioethanol production, even if you do, the price would be high, and the second problem would be what is the emission intensity, because you are using sugarcane and water as the, sugarcane and rice as the major crops. Maize में you can do that if you can improve the per hectare productivity of maize. Right now maize is not being done because maize का productivity is less, उसका input cost ज़्यादा है, output पे price नहीं है. If you can improve that productivity for maize, then you can have a solution. Also another problem which we did not talk about, that the production facilities for bioethanol are also concentrated. Most of the ethanol production for sugar, which comes from sugarcane, is concentrated in Uttar Pradesh. That means if only few states are the ones which are going to do it, even in grain based, it's mostly coming from 4 states. You are also going to have a logistics challenge moving ethanol from one part of the country to another. This is going to create a problem because ethanol, the taxes for states would be different. Though ethanol has GST, but the feedstock can have regulations of the state. Petrol, diesel have sales tax and also you have excise duty, but ethanol has GST. But logistically could be a challenge because the state can have restrictions on movement of the product. Logistic distribution of ethanol from one part of the country could also have a significant high cost. So that means the target which we're moving from 10 to 20%, or first we move from 5 to 10%, then 10 to 20, is having significant number of challenges. So we'll have to address these challenges, then only it is going to give you a benefit. Some of the problems such as emission intensity and also food versus land, food versus ethanol, that is also something has to be considered for the longer run, because if climate variability reduces the amount of production, influences the productivity, you cannot have a lot of ethanol being produced from food sources. So long-term solution sustainable here would only be if you use the waste crops, the waste which is going to come from different crops including cellulosic biomass, that is investment in 2G technology. Integrated plants for 2G is what is going to give the long-term solution. 1G sources, though productive, are commercially viable but have a significant challenge. 5 to 10 में वो shift करने में इतना challenge नहीं आया, 10 to 20 will not be shifted easily. This is what is your bioethanol. Is it clear? So this is from this class. Next class we're going to have other topics.